Father God, thank you for this beautiful spring weather. Thank you for the reminder that it is, Lord, that you're making all things new. Thank you for the reminder that it is of the new life that we can have because of your Son, Jesus, and his death on the cross and his resurrection. As we look forward to the Easter time coming soon, Lord, we're so grateful for providing a way, Lord, that we can have eternal life in heaven with you. Pray, Father, that you would be with us in this meeting, Lord. Thank you that you are the God who provides. As we look for the allocations and the provisions for the coming school year, Lord, just help us to have wisdom and to make decisions, Lord, that are honoring to you and true to our mission, Lord. And it's in your name that we pray. Amen.
Calling the agenda summary workshop to order for March 8th, 2020, 1 p.m. Welcome citizens of Clay County. Welcome all of the employees that we have here to help us through the allocations today. I appreciate you all being here. There will be an opportunity for public comment or for public to ask questions at the end of the workshop presentation. Questions will be allowed and your participation is welcome and always appreciated. Mr. Roski, you're in the hot seat. Would you like to begin?
Sure. Good afternoon. Of course, today the purpose is the 21-22 allocation package. A couple things I just want to remind the board why we're here now. Typically, the allocation package is during the during the board meeting for March. But you remember that, to the board's credit, we did rezoning. That rezoning vote occurred on the 4th at that board meeting, which is why allocations has now become a special meeting. Typically, we would do that during the March board meeting, but I appreciate the board addressing the needs of Oak Leaf High School and the other schools to get us to this point. So typically, the agenda review, this review would happen during the regular agenda review for the March meeting. I did watch the videotape of last year's, about a 10-minute presentation on allocations, and I plan on doing about the same sort of model for that. A couple of reminders of the process of how we go through this. Not only do we have allocations, but the reason why allocations is pushed up to this first week and not like in a couple weeks is because in April we do reappointments. In order to reappoint somebody, you have to have a job to reappoint them into. So there's a whole process, a series of process that goes on. I'd also kind of point out to the board that the allocation process and the reappointment process are not a one-shot deal. Okay, they occur over months. We have an allocation change document every month. In the case of reappointments, you'll have reappointments in April. We'll bring the big package of individuals. It'll be a separate agenda item. And then in May, they'll be embedded within the personnel consent agenda under human resources for May, June, July, and believe it or not, August. Not everyone gets reappointed on the same board meeting. The reason for that is a couple things. One, we don't reappoint administrators or probationary annual teachers during the April meeting. That's always done in the June meeting. In addition to that, some folks may not have completed their certification, or they might have an out-of-field status to clear. All kinds of reasons why. So just like in college where they had like a hold on your account, when you try to register for class, we put a hold on reappointments until certain processes are done. Once they're done, then we reappoint them to the next, at the next board meeting, on the next board agenda. The same I would say about allocations. Allocations is not a one and done type of approach. We do this all the time, and I'm especially going to bring that forward this year with the way the current school year went in relative to COVID and the shifting of people, etc. So, and this is going to be old school. I guess I'm going to raise my hand and point to you to advance.
Okay.
Okay, fine. Next one. Okay, next. I don't have a point
pointing to me when you're talking old school.
Next.
Oh, he's pointing to me over here.
Well, thank you for explaining it that way, because although everyone in this room, we all know how it works, the people watching and, paying attention at home may not understand how we do allocations and reappointments. So thank you for taking the time to clarify it.
So I thought I would kind of, since this is my first time as superintendent doing the allocation package, I thought I'd kind of present some guiding principles, like how did you come up with the document that you all were given and the information that you're given? One, the first guiding principle is stability. Okay. This year, our school district has done an amazing job in adverse conditions, the teachers in the classroom, the support employees, the administrators. I always say that this year is a good test of your flexibility, okay, and that is the key word. So when we built this allocation package, you will see that there's not much movement. There's no ESE programs moving from school to school like has been in the past. There's essentially the addition of a couple of teachers if the enrollment went up, or deletion of a couple of teaching positions at a school if enrollment went down. That is from the school level, that is in fact the only changes that were made. It's based on population. So I think if I run through this whole presentation in about 10 minutes, I'll probably answer most of the questions that'll come forward, but then you'll kind of see the big picture of it. The second piece that I point out is it's fiscally conservative. At the end of this, not to skip to the punchline, but this is $1.359 million less than last year's allocation package. There's a couple of reasons for that. You know that students, the number of students has decreased. The executive order that the commissioner had signed last year, in essence, gave us some reprieve financially from the penalty that would have been imposed upon the district based on our student numbers. This gets us more in line, but it doesn't cut it back to that point. What it does is allow for growth. So we believe that we took the Goldilocks and the Three Bears approach and tried to get it just right based on potential growth and the number of students that are in fact missing.
What's the number of students that are missing?
So we would have the projection, it was actually a little over 1,000 less students in the projection. So the math on that, if you do 1,000 times 7,000, that would be about 7 million in revenue. So the approach allows for that growth to occur, but at the same time, the bottom line is, I believe this to be fiscally conservative, this package overall. It meets the needs of students in the area of reading. Don't need to tell you that reading is not only the foundation of all learning, but also I was kind of surprised to see that we didn't actually have a formal reading department within our district. I believe, and don't quote me on this, but I believe we're the only top 10 district without a formalized reading department and approach. If you paid attention, I know you guys were on the FSBA House Bill 7011, which deals with early literacy, and there's a tremendous push for early literacy. So you're going to see, particularly when we get to the instructional division piece of this, you're going to see the formation of a reading department in which we reallocated folks from one portion of the instructional division into a formalized reading department with a supervisor over that department. And so that's the third principle. The fourth principle that you see up there is strategically to position us to complete Ed First projects. I think you all met individually with the operations department and kind of saw the plan for Ed First. And we're very thankful that the voters of Clay County voted the Ed First into existence. And we're looking at almost $60 million worth of immediate needs within our district in HVAC, roofing, etc. So in order to get that done, you're going to need additional people in order to make that happen. And so that's the fourth principle. And the fifth principle is flexibility. If there's one thing that we've learned this year is we need to be flexible. this allocation package has 20 positions built into it. So if in fact there's a need to make adjustments quickly, we can make adjustments quickly when students pop up in one particular area or another. So again, looking for stability, not a lot of change. One teacher here, 2 teachers here, etc. Fiscally conservative. We're going to have to pay the bills. It's really just that simple. Meet the needs of reading, be able to deal with our infrastructure needs, and be flexible to adjust. So that's kind of the big picture for all of these positions and the guiding principles for what we did here today. Okay.
Quick question.
Yes.
In the flexibility area, you said 20 positions per
Yes.
classroom? That's more than we've had in the past.
Yeah, it was 10 last year.
Awesome.
So
Awesome.
we're asking for more flexibility from the board, because if you saw what happened last year, when we get to like CVA, we attempted, in the very beginning, it was high, I don't remember the number, but then it went down and went down further, right? So what we did was, we kind of looked at that history and then took a percentage basis theory as to how many students. There's no way for any of us in this room to know the exact number of students that will go to CVA. So the idea would be to have 20 positions so that we can make those adjustments depending on what happens with student enrollment.
Great.
So it looks like we cut CVA by 23 teaching positions, which makes sense because those
Right.
same teachers that went to CVA, we added those allocations, and now they're back in their previous allocation that was still sitting there for them.
Correct.
But you still have 20 teachers, 20 extra CVA teachers on.
No,
We-
20 extra
20
positions.
20 extra positions that are there in the instructional division so we can meet the needs.
Yeah.
Very good.
So if you look up there, those are all the things that we did in order to come up with those allocations. One, the census data. We also used our impact fee studies. I'm going to say this for the process this year. I've been around a long time, 31 years. February 22nd was my anniversary in Clay County school system. 31 years officially now. And this was the most collaborative process involving all departments to come up with an allocation project, a staff allocation. So it involved the instructional division, not only Roger and Heather and Treasure, but also ESC, climate and culture, and probably at least 10 meetings, maybe at least. A lot of, let me just put it this way, a lot of blood, sweat, tear, and work ethic went into coming up with this. Are we perfect? Absolutely not. But I feel good about the effort that was put forward by everyone to get us to where we are. And so it included not only the allocation model, the mathematical formula that we used, but also rezoning types of considerations that the board had just conducted. So all of those things are part of the process that we went through. So if you can go to the next slide. For elementary schools, you can see that we added 2 basic teachers. We reduced 1 behavior management teacher. We added 1 ESE. We added 2 inclusions. We reduced 1 gifted. There's a really good hard look at each school's allocation package at the elementary level. I would also add that we went ahead, and after we did this, of course, we talked to each principal. I know, board members were concerned or reached out to principals about that. Let me just assure you that the district is going to do everything that we can to ensure that everyone is supported, every school, every student, no matter where it is. I could tell you as a person who's been at the school level for many, many years, prior to this position, there's always that back and forth that goes on between the school and the district level. At the end of the day, I do believe that school leaders know that we're going to support them no matter what. That's just what we do in Clay County. It's one of the reasons why we're a top 10 school district. So when you look at the elementary ranks, it looks like we've added a couple of teachers, not much movement. When you look at the top line related to elementary. We did see, okay, Bonnie, on to the next one. You did see a little bit of change in population related to junior high, more so than the other two grade bands. We basically added 4 basic teachers for class size. There was a reduction of 9 based on enrollment using the formula. A reduction of 2 CTE teachers based on the allocation formula. And we also reduced 3 inclusion teachers based on the formula. So when you look at that, there was some movement in junior high, more so than elementary and senior high. And it's merely had to do with the formula and the way that was calculated. When you look at the 4 basic teachers for class size, if we have to adjust, of course we will. You know, we'll meet the needs of whatever happens at the junior high level.
Tell us what the CTE teachers, what programs was that?
Let's see. OPJ was the school.
Both, and is it one
Yeah.
program that they were moving, or is it?
I don't
2
think it was a
different
program
programs?
moved, you know, in talking with Alice, of course, we rely on Alice Polk and her groups to take a look at those formulas and the needs of the students within that school. And so I haven't listed both as OPJ.
Is it just not, there's no interest?
Sometimes,
in the kids?
sometimes people don't, sometimes students don't sign up for particular programs, and that becomes an issue. I can remember at Middleburg, I had a similar issue with electrical, which, you know, really concerned me as a principal. And then you have to market the program and reinvigorate it. But right now, that's kind of where we stand there.
There are also some changes going in the certification process for Microsoft in that
Right.
area. So I'm certain that was probably discerned through Alice as
And
well.
so,
I'm
yeah.
assuming.
So Bonnie, if you can hit the high school one. So when you look at high school, we added 4 teachers for class size. We added 4 basic teachers based on enrollment. You could see that the high school population is more teachers being added into high school. I would call to your attention towards the bottom, you can see there was deletion of an IB school counselor at Ridgeview High School. They funded it through IB, and they decided that they would no longer be necessary in that program. In, you see where the .3 computer lab assistant, that was for Keystone High School. They requested to have a full computer lab assistant, being the only school that had both junior high and high school in the same building. And the same is true of the ISS assistant. They had a plan to use the ISS assistant as a 1.0 because the high school has both junior high and high school students at the same school.
So will they have a full-time lab assistant and a full-time,
Correct.
they were .7, .8?
Correct, correct. And I think that is totally justifiable due to the fact that they're 7 through 12 and they're only school 7 through 12. So you can flip on to the next one. There you see the CBA reduction there. We did our best to allocate CBA based on how we thought teachers and how students would come back to CBA. We have not heard anything legislatively about other programs, the virtual programs, and whether they would be funded or not. My guess would be that they would not be funded based on what I heard from Tallahassee. So we'll kind of work that issue as we get more information. I think you're going to see more and more students come back to school physically in brick and mortar, and that's our hope. And we're hopeful that the flexibility within this system allows us to adjust, to make those the necessary adjustments.
Tell us the numbers for CBA. Prior to the pandemic, was it only like?
There's only like 150 roughly
150.
full-time students.
Then it went up to?
It went up to almost like 1,500, then it went down to I think 900 on the last March 1st data point.
Going up to like 4,000.
4,000.
We went up to 4,000?
Yes, ma'am, I believe so. Way up.
And then it
Which
came
is
down
why
to 900
all those
recently.
allocations were needed.
So, you know, one of the challenges with CVA is CBA is a program where the teacher does not give direct instruction. The student has to have intrinsic motivation in order to do that. There's been great concern over both OCO and CBA, students' ability to actually complete the work and stay engaged in the work. Those folks that have parents that are engaged, I was one of those parents where my child wished I wasn't engaged, but I was engaged.
Yep.
And therefore things happen. And so openly, one of the concerns that I have as superintendent is just the engagement of certain students. And just because a student's happy, because they're not engaged, you know, I'm hoping that the parent is not happy just because the student's happy. Because then, you know, the student is still not learning, and that's really the goal of what we're trying to do. So, okay, Bonnie.
Just a quick kudos though to Ms. Stillano. Also, she was a first-year principal.
Yeah.
I mean, talk about stepping into it.
How about,
And she is just totally a home run.
I would say this too, that we gave very little, and we kept asking. We added one secretarial position there and one other position there. But you gotta remember, CBA went from a school of 150 to 4,000 and exploded, which would be like 2 high schools, right? So you can just picture the staffing of 2 high schools, and of course, it's virtual, but still, it's a lot. It's a lot, to say the least.
So we had 4,000 go to
Just
CBA.
evaluations.
I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just saying, when you're talking those number of students, you're talking those number of faculty. And the
Right,
number of evaluations that 1 or 2 people with the assistant principal need to do in that situation is
and most of the
Unheard of.
staff, oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Garrett,
No, you finish
most of the
it.
staff has had to be trained.
Mhm.
It's a whole different way of teaching, and it's a whole different process. So she did an amazing job, no doubt.
Just remind us how many, we had 4,000 in Clay Virtual. How many did the One Clay Online?
Oh gosh,
It was another very large,
it was
large number,
it was a
right?
large amount. We're down to almost 4,000 now. I presented a slide. I can send it back out again on Thursday night.
Right.
That kind of broke it down. You know, we had about almost 10,000 in a virtual platform,
Right.
and down to like 4,000 in a virtual platform now. I think that, and of course we're studying it, but I would bet that some of those students are not being as successful as they should be, and that their parents would like for them to be. And I'm hopeful that parents and students realize that if that's the case, they should then choose a different option, which is coming back
Right.
brick and mortar, because sometimes the very folks that shouldn't be virtual are virtual. And so the executive order that Commissioner Cochran put out, basically we communicated with parents and said that your child is not doing well in this environment, and therefore you ought to go to a different environment. Doesn't make sense doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. And then the parents signed an acknowledgement letter that they acknowledge that, and you know, you can't go to somebody's house and pick them up and bring them, and taking responsibility for their child's education. So that's a brave new world for us,
Well,
all of this stuff.
It's very impressive of what our district did with 10,000 students all of a sudden going virtual. And even, you know, when the pandemic first hit,
30,000.
yeah, it was everybody, so kudos to everyone,
Yeah.
great job.
Awesome. So the overall financial impact, when you're looking at all of the various grade bands, you can see a reduction of 22.1 total FTEs and a cost deferment of 1.298 at the school level, when you see that. So you can flip to the next one. We just want, Dr. Legucko likes to make it big, she's loud, she's proud, it's red, you know, she just,
We
hey.
need cost savings up there.
So I would remind the board, it's the first time in a few years that we're proposing an allocation package that's actually less than the last years. That doesn't mean we're trying to cut services or do anything like that. It simply means we have less students and therefore have less employees. And of course, we want the flexibility to adjust if we need to. Okay, Monty, so now we're gonna run through all the district folks and what's happened on those. So I know that you've seen the big documents there. You also have a cost document that Doc passed out to you, and it looks like this, that outlines the potential costs for each position. So for the school board superintendent, you can see that we had one change. We deleted the coordinator 2 for chief of staff and added coordinator 1.
So that actually didn't make the book. On that page of superintendents, it should have shown that in the current year as coordinator 2. It's just blank.
Well,
It's just
It added.
procedural.
I
It
think
shows
added
the
coordinator.
addition, but it doesn't show.
Oh, that's
The
right,
deletion.
yeah, it'll,
Yeah.
we can
That-
update that,
it
you're
doesn't-
right,
yeah,
you're
it-
all right. Yeah, no, I'll make that adjustment.
But didn't we vote on that Thursday night?
We will vote Thursday
change?
afternoon.
Yeah.
Was that this past Thursday or was that a month? That was just this, we just voted.
The job description.
The job description.
Yeah, we
That's
didn't vote
what
on
we
that.
did. That's what I was,
Right.
that we voted on
It's
something.
their job descriptions.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's just showing the
That was
2021.
an oversight on
Yeah.
my part, yes, you should see a delete of,
You should.
yeah, one.
Okay.
Well, wait, no, it's in there.
The addition's there, but she's saying
Yeah,
the
addition's
previous
there, but
year
not
is
the
not there.
previous year.
So it should say coordinator 2, delete,
Yeah.
Yeah.
coordinator 1. add.
It's just a procedural thing.
We'll
It's
make
just-
sure it is.
You
in
know
there.
me, I see that stuff.
Okay,
Yeah,
Doc, you got till
no,
1 o'clock tomorrow.
Yeah, all right, I will make the correction.
All right, so now the instruction division, here's where the real fun, begins. So the Department of Instructional Resources, we deleted 1 distance learning and added 1 curriculum specialist with no change in funding, or no change in cost, I should say. For the Department of Climate and Health, we added 2 mental health specialists that we pay for the mental health dollars. In the ESE world, we deleted 1 speech and deleted 1 ESE assistant. Behavioral health, I will say that Ms. Sanders done an awesome job of reviewing all the allocations, ensuring equity among the schools, and attempting to make sure that every school is covered adequately when it comes to ESE services. For elementary ed and the Department of K-12, you can see a lot of movement between elementary ed, K-12, school improvement, and the formation of the new Department of Reading and Early Literacy. So when you look at the document that you have, the big book, you will see all of that movement. Here's the bottom line. There's no more people other than the supervisor that's put in there. The movement of people from one place to another for a specific mission, which is early literacy. So if you flip to the next slide, you can see the Department of Reading and Early Literacy that's there, and you can see that the instructional division had a cost savings at the end of it. But essentially, you're seeing all of that movement on the allocation document, and that movement is going for the formation of the Department of Reading and Early Literacy. I think that House Bill 7011, as well as the best standards, which now are being implemented, all warrant us taking a look at early literacy. There's no doubt that a student's educational future is really in jeopardy if they can't read by grade 3, which is why grade 3 has such a heavy emphasis on it. I think it's an area of focus, as well as other areas. Reading is important no matter what grade you're talking about, but that's primarily a bigger focus than it's been in the past. And I think that sometimes short-term gains in other areas need to be always thought of for long-term gains, which would be the K through 2 and their whole academic future past that. And so that's the attempt there when you see all that movement.
I'm so proud to see the district take this step, and I think that it's going to be critical to our future success and the future success of the students. And I think I see it as a step of putting our money where our mouth is.
Absolutely.
That is a commitment to those young kids to get them on track early, and I think it's a very worthwhile investment.
That's right, and I might even add to my Pete the Cat and what was the one that I read, the llama one? Llama. I learned all kinds of new things recently in that reading series. So that's the attempt there and all the movement there in the instructional division. Same with Title I. So if you flip to operations, you saw a lot of changes in operations. And I will tell you that you can see up there something that's not on the allocation document, but you can see on the screen now. I know that when Bryce had met with you, she talked about project managers for Ed First. You realize that a district of our size only has 2 project managers. Many other districts have many more folks that deal with when major projects are being done, ensuring that they're done correctly. Code enforcement, you can see the deletion of Director 1, Director 3, and the addition of Director 1. That is not on the allocation document. The reason why it's not on the allocation document is because the job description has not come before the board yet in order to make that happen. So openly, I will tell you that the plan will be that in April, there'll be a job description for Director 1 of code enforcement. And then the following month, which will put you at May, will be the allocation. So it just doesn't come here at that time, but I just want to be upfront and say that is the intent moving forward when it comes to code enforcement. And then the addition of the chief building inspector. So you can see that. You can see that we're also going to delete 9 guardian positions. That's through attrition. That will delete those. And you can see one heavy maintenance, one maintenance supervisor. The maintenance supervisor for technical and general, remember that we used to have that position. We cut that position in '09. And this would be the person that would be responsible for, among other things, our custodial staff. I don't know if you realize this, or the board realizes this, is that there's no direct supervisor at all related to custodial services. Jim Fossa has done a great job of just pitching in. You know, sometimes you get voluntold to do stuff, and Jim's just the kind of guy that he got voluntold and does it. I just think that when you're talking about maintenance and you're talking about deferred maintenance, and part of deferred maintenance is ensuring that the maintenance, current maintenance, stays up in order to prevent deferred maintenance down the road, and that would require somebody to initiate that and to take care of that. And so that's what that position is.
Mr. Brodsky?
Yes.
On the school police portion of it, I noticed in the allocation package there were a couple of, and the one I'm thinking of specifically was at Lakeside Junior. I saw that we were deleting the guardian position, and it didn't have a line on there for the resource officer, but we have a resource officer at every junior high.
A resource officer at every school.
We do.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't know why.
So just a reminder that some schools have Green Cove,
Oh, okay, that might be why.
some have,
But
Yeah,
Lakeside
but
Orange
Lakeside
Park
doesn't fall in that.
yeah, Lakeside
No,
would,
she's
and
right.
OPJ would.
Like if you look at
Did you
Bennett,
check
you'll see
that
it's
out?
not there,
Yeah, well.
OPE, it's not there.
Doc
but that's-
will check it
Lakeside
out and
Junior
make the
has a
adjustments.
school
I don't
resource
know.
Does it have one at
Yeah.
Lakeside? Maybe it was Lake Asbury. I don't know.
It was a junior high, you said?
It was the junior high that I noticed.
So
that-
OPJ would be Orange Park
Junior
Police,
high too.
Yeah, Orange Park would
and
have.
Green Cove would be Green Cove.
Green Cove
Okay.
Springs.
So when it comes to the resource officers, I thought we were gonna keep, well, have a resource officer every school, but a school safety officer, the guardians. I thought we were gonna keep those at the junior high and high school.
We were and we are,
Okay.
but also one of the directives of the board was that through attrition,
Attrition.
when they retire.
So are we
Well-
moving, the first
Well-
thought was keep them at high school, junior high, and the biggest elementary.
And I also thought that we talked about Clay Hill
Yeah.
Elementary
Correct.
There's-
Yeah.
yes.
because of the remoteness
Location,
of
right.
of that. So yeah, we'll do that.
So we
We'll
have
ship
enough
people-
to make sure that.
We'll ship people around, yeah.
Okay, very good, thank you.
And then something else that we've done that actually has worked great, and we need more help, is we've added 3 custodian floaters. So one of the big issues that many schools have is that when people are out, like there's no way to kind
Replacement.
of, to get people out there, so we do the best we can there.
So that puts us at 10, because we had
10.
7, is that
So-
enough?
I think so, we're gonna evaluate that, and then if we need more, we'll ask for more. You know, one of the challenges there is that I believe we're behind by more than that
I know we
in
are.
order to make that happen. So in transportation, the service supervisor, that's for the mechanics. We're behind in the number of folks there. And then we're adding an administrative support assistant, deleting the route dispatch, which is about an equal financial spend.
Can I make a comment about the route dispatcher?
Sure.
I'm just a little concerned because that's really the lifeline for the bus driver. And I just want to make sure that they're able, that we're not reducing, that we can still meet the needs of the bus driver.
Of the dispatching.
Yep. Because it's hard enough now, generally when they call in, somebody's on the phone, so it's, it's not easy. Just want to make sure it's covered.
Yes, ma'am.
Do they have somebody currently doing that position?
Yes, so, no, but the administrative support assistant can also help with dispatching, but they can do a little bit more, which is what he was trying to get help out there, is they can help with the dispatch, the routing, and additional stuff around the office. So, it should take care of that.
Thank you.
So in business affairs, Doc has got no change within her department. Good job, Doc. Information services, we deleted 1 data service assistant, 1 network specialist, and created 2 programmer analysts within that position. And then the last one, human resources, no change, although we did a reorganization there last year. So the total reduction is $96,000 at the district level. And then the final page behind shows your total impact of negative 1.395. And so that's it as far as the presentation goes, and didn't know if you had any questions relative to that. So I wanted to try to point out a couple things. One, you know, I recognize that there might be some places where we say, you know, we should do this or we should do that. What I'm asking for is the board's understanding that this is an unusual, I'm even gonna use the word unprecedented. Because I know there's people at home that, oh, never mind.
I haven't heard that word.
So I recognize that. I can tell you that a great deal of effort was put in to ensure equity. We've discussed with everyone within the district many times. And we feel like this is the right thing moving forward. Do I guarantee that there won't be any adjustments to it? Absolutely not. I make no guarantees for adjustments in the future. I think it's all but certain that we're going to have to adjust it in the future as we get more information. Right now, I believe that this meets the 5 principles that I outlined in the beginning. Any questions about allocations? Yes, ma'am.
I do. I have a few. I typically look at the 6 schools that are in my district, mainly because a couple of them are very outlying area. The first one is on page 5, which is Clay Hill Elementary, and I see that it is down 1 person,
Okay.
1 basic ed. And again, my concern is because of its location and getting people to, to come on staff is very difficult. So I just want to make sure that we're paying attention to some of those in the outlying areas. That's all. The other one, of course, is I'd like to look at Keystone Elementary School. Again, one of the positions that was frozen was a assistant principal position.
We are unfreezing that.
Okay, I see it's back on here, so I just want to make sure that it's been frozen, so, because they've had a tremendous amount of,
Yeah.
because of trying to serve lunch and all kinds of things like that. I also see that they're actually down 2 basic ed people in a .9 position in ESE. And so that's also my concern of the number, because while we're projecting 726, they actually have 808 right now, as of today. And typically, they end a year around between 830 and 850 every year. And so 726, and again, I know you looked at census and all that, but I'm thinking COVID, maybe all of those people weren't counted like they needed to be, like we're hopeful. But anyway, so I'd like those positions to be looked at
Yes,
Keystone Elementary, because that's quite a hit, especially for an area that is over capacity, as we've talked about before. So,
Was the, just
Go ahead, you're fine.
piggybacking on that,
Sure.
was the principal spoken with? You had said that you had
Yes.
spoken with all the principals? So,
She was
Sure.
happy. Everybody's concerned about, do I have enough people? I mean, that's every year. I mean, Mike Wingate used to come out and tell me I was gonna get cut 2, and I used to tell him, no, I'm not, I'm gonna add 3 by
yeah,
the time you're done. And he would leave and understand. I think we all understand that we're gonna take care of every school, every student that needs, or every teacher that needs to be added will be added, so.
okay.
We did speak to her, and of course, she was very happy to hear that her assistant principal position would be filled.
yes, because it's been over a year that they've not been able to fill that position and they've needed it
I
permanently.
think too, and I didn't make this point, and maybe this would be a good time to make the point.
Okay.
All of this with a disclaimer, everything we said was a disclaimer based on the budget that comes out from the legislature.
I
And
understand.
Oh, absolutely.
I think that a couple of things that I would point out about this year, we would have been in a very difficult financial position if the executive order didn't come out. That's a fact, right? And so taking the more conservative approach of not filling positions in order to save finances. Now, as truth would be, there was a superintendent, a 35-year superintendent that got on the Zoom call with us the other day, and he said, hey, I've been doing this 35 years, and I've never seen that. And so basically he said, don't count on it again. He said that was the once-in-a-lifetime anomaly of the legislature and of the executive order. So I think we're gonna take a look at every single one of those reductions, and there were some schools that had an addition.
Page 20, McRae Elementary, while they all didn't lose anybody, but this was asked last year by Ms. Winkler, and she and I have talked again because of its location, and because they have 1 VPK, and so there aren't other daycares out there. The closest place is Smith Lake Bar, and I don't think we want to send them there. So I think an additional VPK, because part of their VPK is used for in-house kids, so it's not really open to all the, they only have so many slots that go out to the public. So again, because of its location and lack of any kind of programs out there, I think that would need to be looked at, the VPK program, and an additional one, and plus whatever the assistance. The one I'm mostly concerned about is Wilkinson Junior High, because it's taken quite a hit at that school. I think they're down, they're down in the ESE department, two in the basic ed, and that's a community partnership school, so that tells me right there that there are a lot of economic needs out there. And so I really believe that that needs to be looked at. I think one of the reasons they've done as well as they've had, because they've had the people that they needed there. So I'm real concerned, and I'd like that to be looked at also. I see that Keystone Heights High School is down, and I know it's a little hard because it's a junior senior high school, but I know we also are missing a lot of kids that are not just, county-wide, that we're kind of unaccounted for. And so, I'm afraid that, gosh, they're going to show back up, and then we're, and I know you'll adjust according to that, but I'd like those things to kind of be be looked at, and I appreciate your time, and
So Clay Hill, Keystone Elementary, McRae, Wilkinson, and Keystone High.
well, only, and Keystone High, I know you're working, and Ms. Burke said that too, and I have no problem, and I know you will. I just, they're down a lot too, and they cover a lot of grade levels, so, yeah, it's down quite a few, and so, Christina Cornwell's done a really good job there. They've added that CPS program there, and again, I just think that one of the reasons they've done as well as they have is because they have that staff, and so I'm just concerned about that amount of cut.
So just know that during April, May, June, July, we obviously would be looking at those numbers. But then there's also the belief that you have to see them show up. Right? It used to be when we see the whites of their eyes. So I would imagine there'll be a 10-day count adjustment that's done. And this year, we got really good at 10-day count adjustments this year, as well as for the semester break, and so we'll do that.
Have we done kindergarten registrations at all the schools?
We have not.
Okay, so that's a piece of the puzzle that we don't really know until we do those registrations to know that number. So that could impact, because like I say, I think Keystone is projected at 726 and they're at 808 right now.
So I fully and openly and transparently, the allocation package that's before you is not one that truly reflects all of the kids that are missing. It's ones with projected growth built back into it where we think it's gonna be. Does this mean that it's gonna happen that way? No, it doesn't. But the idea behind having 20 allocations is that you can quickly respond when something happens at a school where we need to move that. So I would say the team this year did an outstanding job. Mr. Daly, Ms. Tito, Ms. Pickett, Ms. Sanders. Just, I would just say I'm very proud of Dr. Legutko and her work also. We love you, Doc. She's always saying no. But at the same time, there was less siloing and more collaboration, and a lot of collaboration that's gone into this. Do I believe that we've got every school right? The answer is no. It's impossible to get every school right when you had 10,000 students leave the system and 6,000 of those 10,000 come back. 4,000 are still out there. We made our best based on the history of what we saw and what the survey said, that we came back with our best estimate, but we also provided flexibility to adjust when that does occur. And so if there is a school that's in need, we'll adjust quickly and move forward. That was the intent of it. And also kind of just to explain to the board, just in case, hey, there's 4 months before the opening of school. We'll make those adjustments. If we see that creeping up at a particular school, we'll make the adjustments if necessary.
Do we have any data on how many, if any, high school students have dropped out?
I hope not.
I hope none, but that could be account for some of what we're missing.
Well, I think too, we had 742 students go to homeschool from the previous year. Additional ones, that's our largest increase, homeschool students. We've had students, also, an increase in charter. We had other reasons why there's less students. And then there's all kinds of other stuff then there's like the soft factors in that I don't have any data. Like people moving to Florida, because of our status, and people are saying, hey, there's large increases into Florida. I think all of that will have an impact. So I say to the board, one, good work ethic on this particular project from a great deal of people. Two, we wanted the flexibility to make that happen. And I can assure you, we're going to meet the needs of each and every school, within the district. And that's kind of what I would say. Does that mean that there's going to be a school that says, hey, we need to add a teacher at this school? Of course. But that happens during a non-COVID situation. it's gonna happen during a COVID situation, is telling us, so we feel like we're responsive, and I commend the team on a great job. Many a meeting, line by line, it was exciting, lots of good stuff.
It's a very good format of how everything was put together. It was easy to follow and understand, so thank you.
Ms. Clark?
Well, I had a big complaint, but it got taken off the screen.
Okay.
sorry.
No, we're supposed to be in the black, not in the red.
Well, I put the red so it stands out, so
That's
people can
it.
see that there is a credit. Credit means nice
Yeah.
to me, you know, so that's why I put the
If
red.
you need a color, let's go with green.
Yeah, really.
I would have done green if I could, trust me.
No, I like to see that we're adding to our maintenance. Obviously, we have been greatly understaffed in that department. But my biggest concern overall will always be with ESE. And I hope that Ms. Sanders will beat on us if more is needed, because you can never have enough in ESE. I mean, what they do is unbelievable, and it seems like we lose a lot of help in that department. We just, it's part of the process, but.
Yeah, there is no doubt that we do an awesome job within ESC, and that doesn't mean that we can't look and refine the things that we do. I think as an organization, you're always looking to improve. I mean, there's so many things that I personally can improve on. I look to improve every day, and I think ESC would be another example of a division within Clay County District Schools that should look at their current processes and make those impactful decisions. At the same time, we've got a proud tradition in Clay County of our ESE programs, and
We want to keep it that way.
and a lot of folks even come to Clay County because of our ESE programs, and so you got to balance all of that, within the norms of the community, and say, okay, this is what we're going to do in ESE, and so.
Because I want to keep it to where they still want to come to play over.
At a high level. Yes, ma'am.
I have a quick question. A number of comments throughout the media have talked about how some of the count that we don't have in the state of Florida is due to kindergarten parents who thought, no, I'm not going to let my child start in a pandemic year. What is the process? I've been asked this, and I was just like, I'm not sure what you do at this stage. If, let's say I kept my child back, and I thought, I'm not going to put them in kindergarten yet, and now it's a year later, and I'm looking forward to that brick and mortar opportunity for my child, do they enter kindergarten just a year late?
Yes.
Are they tested at all to see if they are capable of entering first grade, or not? Okay. So it's basically, they have to start in kindergarten. I'm looking at people nodding
So, and
one
there
way or
was,
the other.
there was one additional is that the governor, there was talk about retaining students and whether or not that would occur. So, a lot of times when people speak, whether it's legislators or government officials, I kind of I gasp. Wait, there's many notable examples. I'll call your attention to one that's on the hot seat right now is Senate Bill 86, which deals with upright futures for students, and I don't know if that was talked about in y'all's meeting, but certainly the focus of our meeting that many are concerned about. So each year we never know what's going to happen exactly. We try to follow that. Just like you guys try to follow all that, we try to follow the funding, or, are we going to receive funding or not? And then we try to make our best decisions based on the information we have, realizing that not all the information has been given to us yet, which is why there's a change process each and every month for us to make those adjustments after it comes out. So, all right, so are we moving on to the next item? Okay.
Any other questions about the allocations? Okay. Yes, sir.
All right, so the next item is controlled open enrollment. So on the phone, probably enthralled at home, is Miss Terry Dennis. She's probably there. Terry, are you there?
Yes, I am here.
All right, so I'll go through the item with you, you can see that the controlled open enrollment is closely tied with allocations.
Are we supposed to be reviewing that on this? Because this, I'm looking at this agenda for today, and it just has review draft agenda, for the special, sorry, I'm reading it wrong.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you look at controlled open enrollment and that agenda item, you can see that there was a couple of changes. Terry included a summary of changes, looks like third sheet in, as to what those changes would be. You know that statutorily each year we have to have controlled open enrollment. In previous years, the threshold was set at 85% capacity. This year, this particular plan rolls it back to 80%. The 80% was chosen when looking at other districts, particularly St. John's among others, 80% was their threshold. And when you looked at the difference between 80 and 85, one of the challenges was that under 85%, 3 of the 5 schools affected, which would be Coppergate, Lakeside, and Ridgeview, were all schools that were just impacted by the rezoning that just occurred. In addition to that, Oakleaf Junior, which is in a high growth area, as well as Thunderbolt. Right now, there's a certain portion of Patterson's attendance zone that's been carved out and sent to Thunderbolt. So when we looked at controlled open enrollment, that was our recommendation. And in previous years, you know, I know the board's always asked, what percentage of students are actually new FTE? So the answer is roughly 39–40% would be new FTE. Many times it's people moving from one part to the other, one area to another, not necessarily out of county folks. Sometimes it's people coming back from homeschool, etc. And so that was our controlled open enrollment item. We were going to put this out on March 12th, pending board approval, and then it would begin the week of April 26th. Would be the lottery process if there was the need for a lottery. None of the other criteria of the plan had changed from previous years.
Did it always say in here on page 1, kind of in that first paragraph, a new school will not be subjected to controlled open enrollment until it is that a new?
Good catch. That's actually taken from another county's language. And the thought process there would be that if you open up an elementary school, such as Elementary School R in 2023, you once remember when if a person is admitted in, they're accepted for all years that they're in there. So you could theoretically open a school, it get filled up through
The
open enrollment
yeah.
process, which would create all kinds of other issues in ensuring that we could provide for all of our residents. So that's the reason why that was in there. We looked at that, and I think it was you, Jim, that came up with that one and said, okay, that's in the same one as our neighbor.
And if I could add to that too, Orange County has it similar in their plan as well, and then Orange County also has a half-cent sales tax, and they actually have in their plan for a full year, if they are using, like doing any repairs or renovations to one of their schools where it increases their fish capacity, like a cafeteria is a great example, that school cannot be subject to controlled open enrollment for at least a full year. And then the same with their new builds, just as Mr. Brodsky said, is that when you're redistricting and rebounding, and then I know Mr. Fossa has said it multiple times in our growth meetings, it's not like we have 1,000 students just wandering nomad land in Clay County looking for a new school. Like, as the homes are being built in the zones, the kids naturally are going to matriculate in. So if we fill up the school through controlled open enrollment and then people move into the zone, they're moving into an already crowded school for kids not in the attendance boundary.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions related to controlled open enrollment? Wow, that was easy. All right, so then that brings us to Madam Chair, can I go on to the last
Please.
one? Is the contract for Lutheran Services and Clay County School Board, and I'll turn it over to Mr. Bickner.
If everyone has read what I put on the board agenda, it's very self-explanatory. Let me tell you how it came about. Last Friday, or Thursday or Friday, SEDNet sent over an amendment to the contract. And when we got the contract in, looked at that amendment, Bonnie said, holy cow, we can't, because the question was, can Mr. Brodsky sign this amendment? So we looked at that amendment, it said $951,158 and some cents. And so the answer is no, you can't sign something for $958,000. And so what we had to do is go back and look at what it actually is. And it's an amendment from the original contract, which is $936,000. And so there's really only a $14,000 and some change difference. So technically, it's under any authority that he'd be able to sign. But when you look at board policy, it says that the superintendent is authorized to approve contract amendments of less than 10%, which would be $90,000, or $50,000, whichever is lower, if the original contract amount was, quote, approved by the board. The problem is, this contract has never been approved by the board. Under previous administration, the authority was granted by the superintendent to various people in the district to execute contracts. And so the contract was executed in 2020, because the contract ran from July 1, 2020 to June 30th, 2023. There had been no change in the way that contracts were done, and so the previous administration had granted to the supervisor of SEDNet, who is the only employee that runs SEDNet. She is the top end of that department. And she had approved a contract for $936,000, which is okay under the previous administration, but it's not okay now. So what we've done is to make this so that the superintendent can go forward and approve amendments that are, because most amendments are 2%, 3%, 1%. In order to allow the superintendent to do that, we need to have this one approved by the board. Now, this is a contract, when I went back and looked at it, 65 pages long. I still have a lot of things to think about with it and how it all fits together and how SEDNet fits together. But for the most part, it's a very, it's not a bad contract. It's one that I would have approved, but I would have made some changes. For instance, venue for this contract, if you had a lawsuit, would be in Leon County. I would have pushed and made that Clay County. There's some indemnity language in there, but when I look at it closely, I think it's not too bad and we can work with it. So all in all, the contract is very good, and what it is a pass-through. Lutheran Social Services gets money from the legislature and from the federal government. They have a broad program throughout the entire state, and it's set up through each of the judicial circuits, so that our group is Duval, Clay, and Nassau County, and it is all supervised for those three counties from Clay County School District. And Kathy Lawrence is the keeper of the keys for that department, for that whole thing. And so what they do is, they get the money in, they contract with each of the separate school districts, one in each of those judicial circuits, to monitor and find and work with people that are referred to them for family counseling, drug substance abuse, mental health counseling, and all of those things together. And so what Kathy's done, and she's done a marvelous job, there's some of you are very familiar with her, is people are referred to SEDNet. She finds the places where they can get the help that they need through people that we contract with. The people are helped, and the contracts are paid through Lutheran Social Services. So what I'm asking the board to do is simply to ratify what already exists, because she had the apparent authority and the actual authority to sign the contract. So we have a contract, but we don't have a contract that fits within the parameters of our board policy so that we can make further decisions without bringing every little tiny thing back to the board. And so that's the whole process, that's the problem, and that's how we got to where we are.
And this isn't anything new, because Lutheran Services has worked with SEDNet for Years
Many
and
years.
years
We've been
and
doing
years.
SEDNet since time began.
Right.
It was in place when I came in 2000,
Right.
to 2000. And so the only question is, how do we do the contract with it? And because the contracts had changed over the years, and now we're trying to get them back to where we know what we're doing with contracts, that's the only reason it's back here. When it's renewed in 2023, it'll come to the board.
Are
It'll
you
come through contract review, it'll be a change contract, because there are things that I would nitpick with, but it'll come back to the board in 2023.
Are you asking the board to, in addition to approving this,
I'm asking to ratify what's already been done.
to then put something in policy to allow the superintendent to sign the amendment?
Well, if you ratify the contract as it's already been approved by Ms.
Right. I mean, for
Lawrence,
future.
then the amendment that is sitting here right now, as of Thursday, once that's approved, the superintendent would have the authority to sign.
Right.
And so, if you ratify this contract, he can sign that amendment, and then if another amendment comes through, it seems like about every 2 months
Okay.
or 3 months, an amendment comes through, and they're all very minor, insignificant,
All right.
dollar-wise.
Mhm.
You're talking about $14,000. The last one had no money change, but it had a small change in the language of the contract,
Right.
which was, for the most part, insignificant, because it didn't do anything that we didn't already want to do. So, by ratifying the contract, it makes it so that it can be, the amendments can be approved without bringing them back when they're
Perfect.
less than 10%, or less than 50,000, which is the lower amount. So, are there any questions? Clear as mud?
Clear as mud, thank you.
All right.
That's right.
And we all know what a wonderful program SEDNet is.
Yes.
That's it, Madam Chair.
I appreciate it. Mr. Bickner, do you have anything further to add?
I do not, thank you.
You're welcome. Ms. Gilhausen?
I have nothing.
Ms. Clark?
Nothing today.
Ms. Kirkus?
I would just like to ask Dr. Legucco, I saw Mr. Broski give his allocation booklet to Ms. Kidwell, and our policy or their contract says that they should get a copy of everything. Would you provide her with the other handouts that you gave?
Oh,
before?
yes, of course.
Thank you. That's it.
Ms. Fuller? Nope, that's good. On that note, the meeting is adjourned. See you all Thursday.
I did have a